Hello guys, it's Mr. E, and I'm back with another video. Today we'll be looking at my meta guide, video 2, and I'm hoping that you guys find something that you like. If you guys haven't seen my video 1, make sure you guys check out my playlist section and find it, because I did showcase a bunch of classes in there. Today, however, we'll be looking at new classes, so join me as we go over them. Let's start with the Amazon. Alright, first things first, we need to go get a kill because we're using Belt of Skulls. Belt of Skulls will give us the buffs that we're looking for. Alright, we have the buffs. We have the buffs! Not bad, not bad. Alright, so looks like our damage is ranging probably between 700 mil to a little over a billion. Right now I did not plug any jewels or anything in. If I was to choose, I would probably, since I have 150k damage reduction, I'd probably just stack a bunch of Hellman, just get my HP all the way as high as I can. That way I don't get one-shotted by anything. Let's see, what am I wearing? I am wearing Stickman Steve's necklace. I am wearing Pit Lord's Vanquisher. I am wearing Torch of Shadows. I am wearing Grimbone's Ribcage, which technically if you want you can boost the damage by using like Thunder Guardians. You can also wear, other things. I tried Shroud of Elements. I didn't think it was actually that much better, so that's not a good choice. But yeah, you can throw in a bunch of other things there if you don't want to go tanky and you want to go just straight DPS. I did try a bunch of versions of Solo YOLO with different abilities, and I did try some stuff with different weapons. However, Solo YOLO just comes in clutch, and Mark Target 20 seem to be the best. Even better than Eternal Flames and stuff like that. Thunder Strikers, Belt of Skulls, obviously. Giant's Band of Strength. So it's between that and Rainbow Band. They both kind of do close to the same thing. So if you're looking for more all resist, this might be the way. And if you're looking for more attack power, then this is the way. So both are good, but I went with Giant's Band of Strength because it's easier to obtain. Arena Masters Marchers, and Sung Lee's Unleashed Rage. So weird thing is, this actually is working with Solo YOLO. Normally it doesn't. Normally it kind of ruins the damage because it goes from being a multi-shot to a burst shot. However, this does double your damage, so this is definitely needed for the build if you're wanting to hit 1 billion at all. What's my Merc wearing? My Merc is wearing Imperial Glaive with Flash Fire. It doesn't have to be 20, I just had it set to 20. I am using Mayhem for the Moonshine Madness. Demon Warlord Helm, just because I had it, so I threw it on there. And Tommy's Vibrant Aura for the buffs. I tried a bunch of other shields, but unless you're just going to go tanky for the Merc, the Vibrant Aura bonuses are better for you. And what am I doing for skills? For skills, I have 1 point over here. I put 20 into Spearnage to get the cooldown lower. We went with Odin's Battle Maiden, obviously, so we can spam Spearnage. We went for 20 into Tropical Thunder because it does proc quite often, and it is a big amount of damage for single target. We went with Brunhild's Chosen because it does give you a bunch of AoE bonus damage and a huge movement speed buff. It's not as good for single target unless you happen to kill mobs right before you get to the boss. Then you might have a small increase in damage, but before that, it's just really good for helping clear mobs. And then I just kind of threw the rest into Odin's Gift for single target damage. This can be thrown anywhere, so you can choose that, or you can choose Rebound for, reflective damage where the spears kind of travel between You could also throw into poison knives if you rather put more damage in that. Or you could put a couple more points down here to put some passives into the poison section if you want. Or, you know, there's always the more speed option, so completely up to you. But this is how I set up my character. This is how I set up my hero levels. This probably could be changed to this. It would probably increase my damage a little bit. So this is probably not the best possible choice, but because we do have some poison on my setup, I just decided to add it there just so that the poison ticks a teeny bit higher. We went with the higher crit because that's what we're going for. We're going for crit. And then obviously just strength and attack power is the way to go. So these two could be swapped. Maybe your damage would actually go higher. And mercenary, we went with the ranged one. So there you go. If you guys want, like I said, you can stack runes anywhere. We already have max cooldown. We already have max resists. So now it's just up to you guys to plug in, you know, what you want. Put in trommels, you can put in Hellman, you can put in attack power, you can put in ability power, you can do whatever. You could do magic find, XP, whatever. This is the setup, and I hope that it helps you guys. So let's go ahead and jump to the next character. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at the Redneck. So as far as the Redneck goes, he also needs to use Belt of Skulls. So let's go get a kill. Alright. We have the kill set up. Let's go ahead and do some damage. Alright, not too bad, not too bad. So we hit a little over 1 billion. Our average is probably around 600 to 800 mil. I don't have really high health or reduction right now because I didn't plug anything in. The only thing I did plug in was some cooldown bond runes because we didn't have enough cooldown. So what's my setup? I am using Hametsu's box. The higher the spell mirror, the better the odds it's going to help proc, and what it does is it helps you spin your Chainsaw Massacre more often, which then in return gives you all of your damage, really, that starts adding up. We are using the Lumberjack setup. We tried to get, you know, some resists on stuff if we can, but what it does is it allows you to do extra fire breaks, and that helps with also your Chainsaw Massacre damage too. So going with the Lumberjack set, we're using Stickman Steve's Necklace for the overall just good stats. We're using St. Macy's Longsaw with Mark Target 20. This is the overall best statted saw in the game, hands down. We are using Belt of Skulls for the buffs. We're using Bounty Hunter's Plate for the overall stats. It's just really good, and it has crit, which is what we're kind of going for, a little bit more crit. Caffeinated Coffee, we're just using it for the elemental damage, really, and for the stats. And then we're using the Absence of Constraint so that we can get the 3-piece set bonus without having to have all 4 pieces. The Merc is wearing Beacon of Shadows with Flash Fire, and it has Elemental Break. The higher the Elemental Break, the better, but this one just happens to be a 1. Tactical Flak Jacket, just to boost our resists a little bit more. Halgar's Dreadful Wall, that way we can get the Koga buff, which increases our damage and attack speed. And then Underworld Skullbreaker, just for the armor break. So this is what the Merc is wearing. My skills are 1 over here just to get down to Moonshine Madness for the attack speed and movement speed buff. 1 into Hillbilly Rage. 20 Chainsaw Massacre. 20 Experienced Logger. 20 Chainsaw Mastery. 20 fire break, and then the remainder into durable wear pretty much for survivability. I am also using these hero levels. Kind of wanted to stack more into the HP side just for survivability, but if you want to go more damage, you can go into strength. Then we went with the Mage Mercenary, and the reason being is because it has this skill where there's a chance that she will reset our cooldowns to 0, and by doing that, it allows us to spam, Fire Break and Chainsaw Massacre more often. So we have that, and it works beautifully. If we happen to be wanting to go for a little bit more damage, you can go for the melee merc and then put Saint Rexy's in his hand. But that's a super expensive upgrade, and our damage would go a little bit higher, maybe by 100 or 200 mil more. But if you want to save and have more convenience, just go with the Mage Merc just for these setup. So yeah, I would just throw a bunch of Trommels and Hellman in here just to boost my overall survivability up. And we're already looking pretty decent on reduction anyway, and our HP is okay. It could be... oh, sorry, that's the Merc. Our reduction and our health is okay, technically, but I would probably be happier if this was somewhere around like 200k and this was like 300k probably. Or whatever makes you happy. You could just go straight HP and say, you know what, 137k is enough reduction for me. It's up to you. The more all talents on your gear, the better. That would just give you more reduction from durable wear, and then it would also give you more damage, obviously, from everything else. So if you wanted to roll everything perfect, you'd probably want to look for either crit or all talent. But yeah, this is my chainsaw dude, and I hope that it helped. Time to show you the next one. So next we're going to go ahead and look at the Shaman. I know a bunch of you guys were wondering about Shaman, and Shaman has a lot of potential. The one I put together might not be the very best possible, but it is one that I came up with, and I'm happy with it. So it does not use Belt of Skulls, so we won't go get any kills first. Let's go ahead and test the damage. Alright, so as you can see, it has a chance to proc up to 1 billion, maybe a little bit more. Its average is around 600 mil to 700. It is using the 3-piece set of the Earth Shapers just so that we can get the overall totem attack speed and damage. We're using Absence of Constraint so that we can buff ourselves with the 4-piece set, even though we're using 3. We're going for a mostly crit build on this, so we went with the Ward of Blood. We needed the cooldown, so having cooldown on this helped a lot. Went with Terethiel's Ancient Wisdom for the magic damage and just the overall stats. Went with Death Knight's Visage for the magic damage and the crit. We went with Philosopher's Stone just because for some reason this was just better. I think it's because we needed magic damage, so all of this overall helped a lot. We went with Torment, the rune word, and we rolled Mark Target level 20 on it. We also went with Atu's Diamond Hands. This converts a lot of the damage into elemental, and from my testing this helped a lot, so we went ahead and went with this. Went with Coffee for the elemental damage and overall stats. And the Merc is using Beacon of Shadows with Flash Fire. It's using Mage Slayer's Jacket for the spell break. It's using Nikita's Helmet just for the overall stats to help it with overall survivability. And then we put Tommy's on for all the other buffs. The As far as this goes, a lot of the ideas did come from Goldfish, but I couldn't get his build to work the way that he showed off in the Discord. So this is my variant, and whether or not his works or mine works, it's up to you. So feel free to, you know, switch things, try things. As far as the stats go, they aren't great. I have only 83k reduction, only have 116k health. I don't have maximum resist right now, so you would have to probably find some gear with all resist, or you might have to, you know, roll the right resists on your gear to match what you need. I don't have anything really plugged in though, so that gives you guys the opportunity to fill in the blanks wherever you want with HP reduction or resists, or, you know, maybe damage. So I didn't plug any of that in. You guys can feel free to do what you want here. As far as my skills go, I went at least one down to here so we can get wind armor. Having things reflect back is nice, and you know how blood orbs and all that stuff work in this game. They are devastating later on, so if you can reflect them back and don't take the damage, that'd be great. Just a chance for lava spill a little bit for free. We plugged in a bunch of points into the totems, and Chieftain's Rage for the buff. As far as rolls on here, like I said, resist would be great, all talents would be great, crit would be great. So yeah, this is the setup. As far as hero levels, this is how I plugged it in. I went with more energy, we went with armor break, and then obviously we spammed the heck out of mana, so we needed mana regen, and then crit. So mercenary, we use mage just like we did on the last build, so helps with the cooldowns, lets us spam our skills more often. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and look at the Paladin. So with this build, it's going primarily crit. I do use Belt of Skulls, so let's go get a kill first. That way we can get the damage, attack speed, movement speed buffs. Alright, we got the buffs. Alright, so this build is not, you know, top of the line, highest hitting build in the game, but it does sustain around 500 mil, maybe going up to like 700 mil, and it does focus a lot on crit, like I said. It has a bunch of Wii runes I plugged in to try to get a little bit more crit. You guys can sacrifice those if you want and go more survivability. I did have a little bit of an issue getting max cooldown, so I put in some Vaughns. We went with the Stickman Steve set, so those proc using Absence of Constraint. We're using the 3-piece Thor set, so that we get additional damage from our hammers, plus it casts an extra hammer. Belt of Skulls for the buffs. Bottle of Sake for the overall just crit and crit damage boost. Arena Masters Marchers for the crit. Rift Masters Dirge, it's definitely the best in slot. Probably Mjolnir is the second best, so if you can't get this, Mjolnir is probably second. We rolled Mark Target 20. And then as far as the Merc goes, we're going Beacon of Shadows with Flash Fire. We have Mayhem for the Moonshine Madness buff. Just a normal random helmet we threw on him. And then St. Tommy's Vibrant Aura for all the other buffs that it comes with. So, as far as the shield goes, this is definitely best in slot. Mirage is okay. Defender's Justice is okay. But Ward of Blood is the best. So that's how we went with the setup. As far as the skills go, We plugged in 20 into Life Overflowing. We plugged into 20 into Holy Hammer, 20 into Thunder Hammers, 20 into Venerated one, and then we plugged in the rest into Infusion of Righteousness, with a couple points here and there into other skills. If you were going into, I want to be more of a tank, less of a damage dealer, then you'd want to plug into these 2 points and start using Holy Nova. And the only reason why is because the damage reduction that you build up right here is really high if you spec into it. So it's worth it if you're looking to get your damage reduction up, plugging into Holy Nova instead of going pure damage like my build did. You could plug in a point into Lightning Fury if you want. You can plug in points wherever else you want, but this is my build. As far as damage reduction and HP go, it's not amazing, but you can fix that by plugging in more jewels or subtracting some of these Wii runes if you want. As far as hero levels go, this is how I spec'd it. We went into the strength build, the crit build, the armor break build, and, you know, attack power. So that's how we went. This build uses a lot of mana, so we need mana per second for sure. And then we went with the Mage Merc again, so that we can get our cooldowns to 0 every once in a while. And she applies that overshield for us, that helps a lot. So, with that being said, you guys can make up the difference for survivability if you want. And like I said, these 2 skills right here make a difference in survivability too. Especially if you're in hardcore, you'd probably want to spec more into these. Maybe take out some of the infusion or something. And that is my Paladin. Hope you enjoyed it. Now let's go ahead and look at the next character. Alright, so the last and final class of this video, one that you guys have been waiting to see a build for a while, is the Pyromancer. So let's go ahead and jump in. I do have 2 separate builds for this actual class, and I will showcase both in this video. But let's go ahead and start with the Pyromancer's HYDRA setup. So let's go ahead and get a kill because we have Belt of Skulls on. So the cool thing with this build is you spam so many Hydras that the Hydra damage just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. It's pretty awesome actually. It does ridiculous damage, and it pretty much just keeps going. As long as you stand here and hold down the Hydra button, they'll just keep going up and up and up and up. And the damage, it gets insane. So yeah, Hydra build, and it's really good solo like single target damage. Might not be the best possible setup for you know, clears if you're going for speed clears and stuff, but for single target damage it's really good. There are builds that hit for way higher than this, but this build for the most part is pretty cheap to make. The most expensive thing on it is probably this ring. So Iron Ring of Prometheus, you want to try to get Hydra Mastery 20. Since it was removed from the Dragon's Breath, it can only go up to 10. Having 20 on this makes up for the difference, and it's really good. I went ahead and went with Charcoal Memento for the fire damage and all talents. Went with Lava King's Lost Master or Mask, and it was for pretty much everything. Crit, all talents, fire, it's just good. We got the 4-piece set of the Flames of the Apocalypse for pretty much the Hydra damage and AoE damage. We're using Belt of Skulls for the buffs. We have Coffee on for the elemental damage pretty much. And then Hydra, Mastery and Mark Target, 20 on Dragon's Breath. We mostly wanted it for this +6 to the Hydra. That's really big. It's like adding 6 extra all talents, and then because we happen to get one with another all talent, it's +7 all talents to Hydra. Mirage, this is big. If you weren't using it here, you would need to use Metsu's box up here, because this allows you to spam extra Hydras pretty much really quick. So that's why I went ahead and did this. I thought that our damage reduction and HP was actually really bad with this setup. It's one thing that a lot of the pieces of gear on Pyro doesn't scale well, is the survivability. So I went ahead and did plug in gems for survivability, and then cooldown gems and some resist gems. So this is pretty much the setup that I went with. My Merc, I went ahead and plugged in the attack/ranged Merc. You could potentially go with the Mage if you want. It might help spam a little bit quicker because of the cooldown buff. But I wanted to get St. Nere's buff, so we have St. Nere's on our Merc, and we probably could have put anything else, but Mark Target's what this one has. We have St. Tommy's on, and we have Shroud of Elements for Elemental Break. The helmet doesn't matter, I just threw a random one on just to cover that spot. As far as the skills go, we put 20 into Flame Shield. Flame Shield buffs our overall HP, and it gives us a bunch of all resist, and it just helps a lot. So we went Flame Shield. We put 15 into Pyrokinetic Disorder just to have that extra damage from around us from the fire circle. We plugged 20 into 3rd degree burns. That way we have fire resist and we slow the target. Well, the fire resist, I mean, is pretty much like fire break kind of. It allows us to get within the resistance. Burning, this helps a lot, so I plugged 20 into this so that we do way more damage over time. And then Hydras, so we put the 20 into Hydras to get the low cooldown and to spam our damage from Hydra. As far as hero levels go, this is how I spec'd it. We went into energy, we went into elemental, we went into break, and then a little bit of crit, and then, you know, energy. Mercenary, just your basic ranged mercenary, that's how he is set up. So that's one variant of the Pyro, and this is an actually really fun variant. I probably would have chose to run this variant on my hardcore setup this season if it wasn't for the fact that the Iron Ring of Prometheus is super scarce on hardcore. So I went ahead and went with this next variant, which I'm going to go ahead and show you guys right now. Alright, so here's my last and final build of the video, and it is the exact build that I am running right now in hardcore on Hero Siege Season 18. If I could show you guys on local, I would, but there is some type of problem where the damage scaling is not accurate on there, so I decided to just show you with my live version. I do not use Belt of Skulls. So let's go ahead and test out the damage as is, with a coffee on. So this is a Righteous Fire build that me and another player in game came up with. The person that I am talking about, his name is Dead Again, and most of the idea for this build came from him. We did plug in some, you know, back and forth suggestions, and I decided to add a bleed to it. Most players probably aren't using a bleed build, they're just using a burn damage overtime build, and that's fine. You can do whatever you want, but I decided to add bleed to mine. and he thought that that was a good idea, so he also started using bleed. But the overall damage can scale up to, or I should say upwards of 1 billion plus. However, I don't have all of the all talents and whatnot that you might want. So technically, if I wanted to make this any higher, I'd need to stack all of my gear with stamina rolls, and that's something that's very interesting about this build. The higher the HP you have, the more damage you actually stack. On top of that, if I was to have a better version of gloves, I'd probably rather have lava strikers, because some crit is better and it overall has better stats. In hardcore though, I can't afford those, so this is what I'm using instead, and it is still really good. This is a damage over time build, so you want to focus on using St. Devlin's just so that you can have more damage over time, and it increases its damage. You want to use Pennant of Eternity to stack Eternity, that way you get more dots of damage. You're going to use the Flame Diviner's set, and what that does is it makes your shield and the Pyrokinetic Disorder do more damage, and it stacks more ticks faster. You can use Flame of the Phoenix Staff if you want. This is the one I chose, and you want to roll Mortal Reminder 20. Eternal Flames is okay, so if you want to go with that instead, that's up to you, but I like Mortal Reminder. I feel like it does more damage. There are other staff options too, but I chose this for the +4 to Pyrokinetic Disorder. Coffee is probably one of the most preferred potions, but Witch's Potion is not bad, and for most of us, we have to run something with some resist, so I normally run with a Prismatic instead. That way I get the resistances maxed. If you were trying to go for the best rolls, it's a mixture between stamina, cooldown, and all resist. You don't really want all talents, and yeah. So those are probably the best you can get. Boots of Blood, just so that we can apply bleed, and then Razor Knuckles so that the bleed multiplies more damage. This is my setup. I got a Forge Soldier's badge. Concentration doesn't really help that much, but the overall stats on this are really nice, so that helps a lot. As far as Merc goes, you don't use a Merc. If you use Merc on this setup, you're actually going to reduce your damage. And the reason why is because the Merc will hit the dummy or hit the enemy, and it will restack your dots all over again. If anything hits the enemy, including yourself, you actually do less damage, because all of the damage over time that's building up will start from scratch. So the idea isn't to actually hit the dummy at all with anything except for the fire around you. So what you want is you just want to apply the burn damage and the bleed damage off of you, and you want to make sure your shield is up at all times. So you want to make sure that you have your cooldown at 50%, and after that the rest is up to you, you know? So here we are. We're doing some pretty decent damage, and this is in the live server. I'll show you guys my stats here as well. So this is what my stats are. I have 96.5k. I have 571k health. I am running with pretty much all Hellman jewels for the health, and a little bit of trommels to make up some damage reduction. We pretty much have maxed out stats as far as resists go. We're in health 5, and I went ahead and plugged 20 into Flame Shield, 20 into Pyrokinetic Disorder, 20 into Pandemonium of Flames, 20 into Burning for damage applied over time, and then we really couldn't plug anything else in anywhere, because most of it is only applied off of an active skill or a passive that requires auto attack. So really none of the other skills would work except for 3rd degree burns. And the reason I decided to go into this at all is just because it applies slow to the target. It doesn't stack with Pandemonium of Flames. It tells you right on it, does not stack. So they don't actually apply at the same time, but having this extra chance to slow the target is worth it. So that's why I went ahead and stuck the rest of the points into there. So we can't use any of the other skills technically, or it will reset the stacks on all of the enemies and they won't take as much damage over time. As far as the mercenary, it doesn't matter. So obviously I just used the ranged one, and he's wearing a Tommy shield. That's pretty much it. So this is what I set up as my hero levels. I went into HP, and if I was to go to the next one, I would go all resist. This doesn't matter at all, but I'd probably go ability power, and then I'd go into stamina again if I got to 100. And that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, players of all ages, is the meta video build number 2. This might actually be my last video of the season, and the reason why is because I don't want to put too much time into making videos that aren't going to be progressive as we go forward. With Hero Siege 2 coming sooner than later, I would say that I'm probably better off just waiting until that launches to make more actual build guides or class guides, especially since a lot of the skills and stuff are getting tweaked or removed or adjusted. So, and I also don't know if gear and stuff is also being added or removed either. So with that being said, I hope that this is a great season for you guys. I hope that you guys actually succeed in pushing far in the leaderboards or having a lot of fun with your friends. If you guys want to find me on Twitch, I'm still streaming Equinoxide with a 1. You can find me on Twitch. And if you guys like this video and you like the videos that I've been posting, feel free to hit the subscribe button. It's free, and I'd love to have you in my community. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.